All right, so let's dive into something I know a lot of people have trouble with when they're trying to set B2B appointments.
Yeah.
It's those gatekeepers.
Hmm.
They can really feel like they're guarding a fortress, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's true.
But in this deep dive, we're going to be talking about how to kind of turn that obstacle into an opportunity,
Yeah,
really about winning them over instead of
Sure.
just trying to get past them.
absolutely.
And we're looking at excerpts today from Ethical Gatekeeper Strategies,
Hmm.
B2B appointment setting,
Hmm.
to kind of guide us through this conversation.
I think what's often overlooked is that they actually have a surprising amount of power.
Okay.
They're not just guarding the gate, they're influencing who gets through.
So we're talking about more than just getting past them.
Yeah,
We're talking about like
yeah.
bringing them to our side.
Making them an ally.
Yeah. And making them an ally.
Absolutely.
And this deep dive is all about that.
And the interesting thing is, research from Harvard Business Review shows they have a huge influence, up to 67% on whether an executive takes a meeting.
67%.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a big number.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So knowing that, why do you think those like more aggressive or sneaky tactics backfire?
Well, because they completely miss the point of what a gatekeeper is doing.
Right.
Their job is to protect their executive's time.
Yeah.
They're constantly filtering out anything that feels like a waste of time or energy.
So if you come in too strong, they're basically programmed to just shut you down.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond just protecting their boss.
Right.
They're also assessing risk. Every interaction is weighed for potential value.
Uh-huh.
Gatekeepers want to make sure they're bringing the right people to the table.
So like coming in with a generic sales pitch, that's
That's not going to work.
not going to work.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This source also highlights the human element.
Okay.
Gatekeepers are people too,
Right.
and they want to feel recognized for the crucial role they play.
Yeah. Their ability to manage the executive schedule is a source of professional influence. And, they often feel invisible despite that.
So basically treating them like just another hurdle
Yeah.
is a recipe for disaster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here's where things get even more nuanced. This dynamic actually plays out differently in different cultures.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like how? So,
Well, like take the American business culture, for instance.
yeah.
Directness and a strong value proposition are key.
Okay.
Building a quick personal connection can also be helpful.
So that's like the classic time is money approach.
Precisely, but in Spanish business contexts,
Okay.
formality and titles hold much more weight.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships take time to build.
Mm-hmm.
And getting a third-party introduction can be incredibly valuable.
So it's more about establishing trust over time.
Absolutely. And then you have markets like Northern Europe where efficiency reigns supreme.
Okay.
Be prepared with documentation, a clear purpose, and a meticulous approach to the process.
Wow. So navigating gatekeepers.
It's global.
It's a global game. Yeah.
Yeah.
You really need to be aware of those nuances to be successful.
Yeah.
So with all that in mind, how do we turn the tide and make these gatekeepers our allies instead of our adversaries?
Yeah.
What are some of those ethical strategies?
One of the simplest yet most powerful strategies is respect.
Okay.
Use their name, acknowledge their role. You can even say something like, I understand you're responsible for ensuring executives' time is used effectively.
Yeah.
The key is to ask for their guidance rather than demanding access.
It's almost like you're making them a partner in the process rather than trying to outsmart them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Transparency is another crucial factor.
Okay.
Clearly state your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Be upfront about how much of their time you're asking for.
Uh-huh.
And the value you offer if you have an existing relationship with the executive.
Yeah.
Mention that as well.
So no hidden agendas.
Yeah.
Just clear and honest communication.
Straightforward.
I like it. What else?
Recognition, which plays directly into that human element we talked about.
Yeah.
Express genuine appreciation for their assistance.
Right.
Follow up with a thank you even if they couldn't help.
Mm-hmm.
And remember personal details for future interactions.
So it's not just about getting what you need. It's about building a real connection.
Right. And finally, consider reciprocity.
Okay.
Can you offer them valuable information that might benefit their executive?
Uh-huh.
Can you be flexible with scheduling options?
Yeah.
Even simply asking how you can make their job easier can go a long way.
It's about finding that win-win situation where you're both getting something out of the interaction.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Mm-hmm.
It's less about seeing gatekeepers as obstacles and more about building genuine, mutually beneficial relationships.
You've hit the nail on the head. And what's fascinating is that research from Salesforce shows that organizations who take this approach see a 41% increase in their executive meeting rate.
41%.
Yeah.
That's pretty compelling evidence that this stuff actually works.
Uh,
But hold on, there's another layer to this whole gatekeeper thing, right?
Yes.
This idea of digital gatekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly does that mean?
That's where things get really interesting.
All right.
We live in a digital world, and gatekeeping isn't just about human interaction anymore.
Right.
Think about something as simple as email filters. AI is now screening messages for relevance before they even reach a human inbox.
So your carefully crafted email might not even make it past the digital bouncer.
You got it.
Oh, wow.
That's why understanding how to write subject lines that bypass those algorithmic filters is crucial.
Mm-hmm.
Your sender reputation and using recognized domains also play a key role.
It's like you need a whole digital strategy just to get your foot in the door.
And then there are calendar systems.
Right.
Automated gatekeepers in their own right.
Yeah.
You have to learn to work within the parameters of that scheduling software, understand the psychology behind how people block their time, and find ways to make your requests stand out.
So even if you've won over the human gatekeepers, you still have to navigate this digital labyrinth.
Yeah. Exactly. But here's the good news. There are ways to completely bypass those traditional gatekeepers altogether.
Okay.
Think about LinkedIn introductions,
Yeah.
sharing valuable content that establishes your credibility,
Mhm.
or engaging in relevant online communities where you can connect with decision makers directly.
So it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah?
You need a multifaceted approach that considers both the human and the digital
Mm-hmm.
to really be successful.
You nailed it. And that brings up a crucial question for you to consider.
Okay.
How can you apply this knowledge to your specific situation?
That's a fantastic question for our listener to ponder. We've covered a lot of ground here,
Yeah.
but it all comes down to taking action. What's that first step you can take to turn a gatekeeper from a roadblock into a valuable ally?
It all starts with identifying those key gatekeepers you encounter on a regular basis.
Right, so who are the people that are kind of standing between you and those decision makers you're trying to reach?
Exactly. Once you've identified them, think about how you can apply these ethical strategies to cultivate those relationships. Sometimes it's as simple as a shift in mindset.
So instead of viewing them as a roadblock,
Yeah.
you see them as a valuable connection.
Precisely. That's a powerful reframe. And then you can start implementing those tactical approaches. We discuss things like expressing genuine appreciation, remembering personal details, and finding ways to offer value in return.
You know, it's amazing how those seemingly small gestures can make such a big difference in how people perceive you.
What's fascinating is that when we treat gatekeepers with respect and recognize their influence, we not only increase our chances of getting that meeting,
But we also build those stronger long-term relationships, which are essential in any business.
and let's not forget the digital side of things. As you're crafting those emails or navigating online platforms, those digital gatekeepers are at play too.
Right, it's not just about winning over the human gatekeepers anymore. You have to play the algorithm game as well.
Exactly. So make sure your subject lines are compelling, your sender reputation is solid, and the content you're sharing is valuable enough to get noticed.
It's definitely a whole new world out there. But the good news is, by understanding these dynamics, we can turn those gatekeepers, whether human or digital, into powerful allies.
And that can make all the difference in achieving your business goals.
You know, it's funny how something that starts out feeling like an obstacle can actually become a real advantage if you approach it the right way.
It makes you wonder, what are some of those common misconceptions about gatekeepers that might be holding people back?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that they're just there to block you,
Right, like there's some kind of villain standing between you and the decision maker.
when in reality, they're just doing their job, protecting their boss's time, and make sure only the most relevant and valuable requests get through,
Another misconception is that they don't have any real power or influence.
which we know isn't true at all. They can actually sway up to 67% of those meeting decisions, as we learned earlier.
Which is why it's so crucial to treat them with the same respect and consideration you'd give to any other decision maker.
Absolutely, and I think sometimes people forget that gatekeepers are human beings too.
With their own motivations, goals, and aspirations.
They're not robots just blindly following orders.
Hmm.
They have feelings and they want to be treated with dignity just like anyone else.
And when you approach them with that human touch, it can truly make all the difference.
So instead of seeing them as the enemy, try seeing them as a potential ally, someone who can actually help you achieve your goals.
It's a shift in perspective that can open up so many doors.
Speaking of opening doors, This deep dive has definitely given me a whole new appreciation for the role of gatekeepers.
And the power of ethical strategies for navigating those relationships.
So what are some concrete actions our listeners can take to put this knowledge into practice?
They can start by brainstorming a list of the gatekeepers they interact with most often.
And then think about how they can apply these ethical strategies to those specific individuals.
Exactly. Maybe it's sending a handwritten thank you note after a helpful interaction.
Or offering to share a relevant article or resource that could benefit the executive.
It could even be something as simple as remembering their birthday or asking about their weekend.
Those little gestures can go such a long way in building rapport and trust.
And that's what ultimately leads to stronger relationships and more successful business outcomes.
So instead of dreading that interaction with the gatekeepers, try approaching it as an opportunity to build a valuable connection.
Because when you turn a gatekeeper into an ally, you open up a world of possibilities.
This has been such an insightful deep dive. I feel like I've leveled up my gatekeeper game for sure.
And hopefully our listeners are feeling empowered to do the same.
So before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought-provoking question.
That will encourage them to continue reflecting on this topic.
Now that you understand gatekeepers better and the power of ethical engagement,
What's the one action you can take today to start building a stronger relationship with a gatekeeper in your network?
yeah, it really gets you thinking, right?
Absolutely. It's all about taking that knowledge and turning it into action
Yeah.
within your own unique context. That's
Yeah.
where the real transformation happens.
So to recap this deep dive,
Yeah.
we started by reframing our whole perspective on gatekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the enemy,
Right.
they're potential allies who can actually help us reach our goals.
Absolutely. We busted some of those common misconceptions that hold people back, like
Yeah.
thinking they have no real influence. And we explored some really powerful ethical strategies for building those mutually beneficial relationships.
We even went beyond the human element
Yeah,
and explored the world of digital gatekeepers,
right.
those algorithms and systems that are now part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about how important it is to be aware of cultural differences,
Yes,
because those dynamics can vary significantly around the world.
absolutely.
This has been a fascinating journey.
It has.
And I feel like I've learned so much about how to approach these interactions in a way that's both effective and ethical.
The key takeaway here is that building genuine relationships with gatekeepers is crucial
Yeah,
in today's business world.
for sure.
It's about respect, transparency,
Mm-hmm.
and a willingness to provide value.
And when we approach it that way, those doors that once seemed locked,
Yeah,
they start to swing open.
exactly. So as you continue on your quest to connect with those key decision makers,
Yeah.
remember those insights treat those gatekeepers, both human and digital,
Yeah.
with the same respect and consideration you would give to anyone else, and watch what happens.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to see how our listeners